Nathan Garrett dropped his briefcase and forgot how to breathe. For 3 years his mansion had been silent, the kind of silence that buries itself in your bones and never leaves. But now, standing frozen in his hallway, he heard something impossible. Laughter. Real laughter. Coming from his living room. His 6-year-old twins hadn't laughed since their mother died. He moved toward the sound, each step heavier than the last. When he reached the doorway and looked inside, his knees buckled against the frame. What he saw would shatter everything he thought he knew about healing, about love, about family itself. Before we continue, subscribe, like this video, and comment what city you're watching from, so I can see how far this story travels. 3 days earlier, Nathan Garrett answered his front door, expecting another resume, another credential, another stranger who would fail his children and quit within a month. What he found instead was a woman who would change everything. Maya Thompson stood on his doorstep, 29 years old, wearing clothes that had been pressed with care but showed their age. She held herself straight, despite the exhaustion visible in her posture, 7 years of cleaning other people's homes, while sending every paycheck to her grandmother in Atlanta. Nathan studied her for a long moment. "You're here for the caregiver position." "Yes, sir." "You understand this isn't a typical job." "I read the listing. Twin children, 6 years old, autistic, nonverbal since their mother passed. 14 caregivers in 3 years. Maya met his gaze without flinching. "That's why you're offering 4 times the normal salary. That kind of money only comes from desperation." Nathan's jaw tightened. Most applicants softened the truth, talked around it, pretended his situation was manageable. This woman had walked through his front gate and named exactly what he was: desperate. "Come in," he said. She followed him through the foyer, and Nathan noticed she didn't comment on the house, the vaulted ceilings, the original artwork, the kind of wealth that usually made people nervous or eager. Maya Thompson looked at none of it. Her eyes were searching for something else entirely. "My wife died 3 years ago," Nathan said, his voice hollow. "Car accident. Elena was driving the twins home from preschool. Truck ran a red light. She died on impact. The children were in the back seat." Maya's footsteps slowed behind him. "They watched their mother die," Nathan continued. "Couldn't get out of their car seats. Sat there for 11 minutes until the paramedics arrived. Since that day, they haven't spoken a word. Won't make eye contact. Won't let anyone touch them without screaming." He stopped walking, turned to face her. 14 caregivers, Miss Thompson. Behavioral specialists, child psychologists, experts with decades of experience and walls full of degrees. Every single one of them quit. Said my children were unreachable. Said I should consider institutional options. Nathan's voice cracked on the last words. He cleared his throat, hardened his expression. "So, before you waste my time and yours, I need you to understand what you're walking into. This isn't a job. It's a war. And so far, the war is winning." Maya was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he expected. "Mr. Garrett, can I see them?" Nathan led her down a hallway to a doorway. Inside was what had once been a cheerful playroom. Bright walls, shelves of toys. A window letting in afternoon light. Now it felt like a hospital waiting room. Sterile. Lifeless. 2 children sat in opposite corners of the room. The boy Leo stared at a set of wooden blocks he wasn't touching. His hands gripped his knees. Knuckles' white body rigid, as if movement itself was dangerous. The girl, Sophie, sat by the window, rocking back and forth in a rhythm that had no music. She was humming not a melody, just sound. Static. White noise from a child who had forgotten what songs were for. Beautiful children. Blonde hair like their mother. Blue eyes like their father. But those eyes were empty. Nathan watched Maya's face, waiting for the reaction he'd seen 14 times before: the doubt, the hesitation, the slow realization that this job was impossible. Instead, Maya's hand went to her chest. Her fingers pressed against her heart like she was holding something in place. "I know that look," she said quietly. Nathan frowned. "What?" "That look in their eyes. I've seen it before. Maya turned to face him. After the fire. What fire? Maya was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice had changed deeper, heavier, like she was reaching down into a place she didn't often visit. My sister Denise, house fire 7 years ago. She didn't make it out. Her daughter Kayla, my niece, she was 4 years old. I found her on the lawn watching the house burn with her mother still inside. Nathan felt something shift in his chest. Kayla didn't speak for 5 months after that, Maya continued. Wouldn't let anyone hold her. Screamed if you came too close. The state took her, put her with a foster family 3 states away because I wasn't stable enough, didn't have the resources, couldn't prove I could take care of her. Her voice caught, but she didn't cry. It was clear she'd cried enough tears to fill oceans, and the well had run dry. Your children aren't broken, Mr. Garrett. They're just somewhere else. Somewhere safe inside themselves where the world can't hurt them anymore. Maya looked back at Leo and Sophie. I know what that place looks like. I lived there myself for a long time. Nathan didn't know what to say. In 3 years of interviews, consultations, and professional assessments, no one had ever spoken to him like this. No one had ever made him feel like they understood. When can you start? He asked. Maya didn't hesitate. Right now. That first afternoon, Maya didn't try to fix anything. She moved through the playroom like she'd always been there, folding blankets, straightening books on shelves, organizing toys that hadn't been touched in months. She didn't approach the children directly, didn't try to engage them, didn't make herself the center of attention. Instead, she started singing, low and steady, almost under her breath. An old hymn her grandmother had taught her. Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Leo's head turned, not toward her, just slightly, like a flower following the sun without knowing why. Sophie's rocking slowed. Maya kept singing, kept folding, kept filling the silence with something softer than death. This little car? She said gently, picking up a toy near where Leo sat. Looks like it's been waiting for the right person. She set it down carefully, not too close to him, just within reach. Then she walked away. Nathan watched from the doorway, invisible, afraid to move, afraid to break whatever spell was slowly settling over the room. Leo's hand unclenched from his knee. Slowly, carefully, like he was testing whether the air was safe, he reached out and touched the car. His fingers traced the tiny wheels. Maya pretended not to notice. She was across the room now, pulling a picture book from the shelf, sitting down on the floor near Sophie, but not too near. I used to read to my niece every night before bed, Maya said to no one in particular. She loved stories about animals, said they understood things people didn't. She opened the book and began reading aloud. A story about a lost rabbit finding its way home. Sophie's hand stilled in her lap. Leo shifted his weight, angling his body slightly toward Maya's voice, and Nathan pressed his palm against the wall, closed his eyes, and tried to remember the last time hope hadn't felt like a lie. The next morning, Nathan came downstairs at 6 to find Maya already in the kitchen making breakfast. You don't have to do that, he said. That's not part of your job. I know. She cracked an egg into a bowl. But children need routine. They need to know what comes next. Breakfast at 7, lunch at 12, dinner at 6. Same time every day. Same person making it. Same voice singing while it cooks. Nathan leaned against the counter watching her work. The other caregivers, they had systems, charts, schedules. Everything was structured down to the minute. Systems don't heal people, Mr. Garrett. People heal people. Maya whisked the eggs with practiced efficiency. Your children don't need a schedule. They need to know someone's going to show up, every day, no matter what. How do you know what they need? Maya stopped whisking. She turned to face him, and there was something in her eyes, not pity, not sympathy, but recognition. The look of someone who had walked the same dark road. Because when I was in my worst place after Denise died, after they took Kayla, the only thing that kept me alive was my grandmother. She didn't try to fix me. Didn't tell me it would get better. She just sat with me. Made breakfast every morning. Sang hymns while she cleaned. Let me know I wasn't alone in the world. Nathan felt his throat tighten. That's all anyone needs when they're drowning, Maya said quietly. Someone willing to sit in the water with them. The eggs sizzled as she poured them into the pan. Nathan opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, a sound came from the doorway. A small sound. Barely audible. Both adults turned. Sophie stood at the kitchen entrance, one hand gripping the doorframe, the other clutching a stuffed rabbit that had been her mother's favorite toy to give her. She hadn't touched it since the funeral. She was looking at Maya. Not past her. Not through her. At her. Maya set down the spatula, slowly, carefully, like any sudden movement might shatter the moment. "Good morning, sweet girl," she said softly. Sophie didn't respond with words, but she took a step forward, then another. She crossed the kitchen floor, 5 feet 10 feet, until she stood directly in front of Maya. Then, she held out the rabbit. Maya's eyes glistened. She knelt down slowly, bringing herself to Sophie's level. "Is this for me to hold?" Sophie nodded once. Maya took the rabbit like it was made of glass. "What's her name?" Silence. Sophie's lips moved, but no sound came out. She was trying for the first time in 3 years. She was trying to speak. "It's okay," Maya whispered. "You don't have to say it now. You can tell me when you're ready." Sophie stared at her for a long moment. Then, without warning, she stepped forward and pressed her forehead against Maya's shoulder. Not a hug, she wasn't ready for that yet, but contact, trust. Maya didn't move, didn't wrap her arms around the girl, didn't push for more. She simply held still and let Sophie lean against her for as long as she needed. Nathan stood frozen by the counter, tears streaming down his face. This was more progress than 14 specialists had made in 3 years. And it had taken Maya Thompson less than 24 hours. By the end of the first week, the changes were undeniable. Leo had started following Maya around the house, not closely, always keeping a safe distance, but following nonetheless, like a satellite finding its orbit. Sophie had graduated from leaning against Maya to holding her hand. Not always. Not for long. But the fact that she was initiating touch at all was nothing short of miraculous. Maya never pushed, never celebrated too loudly, never made a big deal of the small victories. She simply received whatever the children were willing to give and asked for nothing more. Nathan found himself coming home earlier and earlier each day, telling his assistant to reschedule meetings, taking calls from his home office instead of the Manhattan boardroom. His company was in the middle of a lawsuit that could cost millions, and he couldn't bring himself to care. Because every afternoon, he would walk through his front door and hear something that had been absent for 3 years. Sound, life, movement. Not laughter, not yet, but something close. The sound of toys being played with, pages being turned, Maya's voice singing hymns while she worked. One evening, Nathan stood in the hallway outside the playroom listening. Maya was on the floor with both children building a tower of blocks. Leo was placing them one by one, his small hands steady, his eyes focused with an intensity Nathan hadn't seen since before the accident. "What do you think?" Maya asked. "Should we add one more, or would that make it fall?" Leo looked at the tower, then at Maya, then back at the tower. He placed another block on top. It wobbled, held, stood tall. "Look at that," Maya said softly. "You knew it could hold. You trusted it." Nathan realized he was holding his breath. Leo looked up at Maya, and for just a moment, half a second, maybe less, he smiled. It was gone before Nathan could be sure he'd seen it. But he had. He was certain he had. He leaned against the wall, pressing his hand to his chest, feeling his heart hammer against his ribs. This woman. This stranger who had walked into his life a week ago. She was doing something no one else had been able to do. She was bringing his children back from the dead. That night, after the twins were asleep, Nathan found Maya in the kitchen washing dishes that didn't need washing. "You do that a lot," he said. She didn't turn around. Do what? Find things to do with your hands when you're thinking hard about something. Maya stopped scrubbing, set the dish down, turned off the water. What are you thinking about? Nathan asked. She dried her hands slowly, deliberately, like she was buying time. Your children, she finally said. What about them? They're ready for more. More interaction, more engagement, but what? Maya turned to face him. They need you, Mr. Garrett. Nathan felt the words like a punch to the chest. I'm here. I'm always here. You're here in the house. You're not here with them. Maya's voice was gentle but firm. When's the last time you sat on the floor and played with your children? When's the last time you read them a story? Sang them a song? I'm not. Nathan stopped, swallowed, started again. I don't know how. Not anymore. Before Elena died, she was the one she knew how to reach them, how to make them laugh. I was just the dad who went to work and came home tired. And now you're the dad who goes to work and hides in his office when he comes home. The words hung in the air between them. Nathan wanted to argue, wanted to defend himself. But Maya wasn't attacking him. She was naming something true. Something he'd been running from for 3 years. I'm afraid, he admitted. The words came out rough, like they'd been stuck in his throat for years. I look at them, and I see Elena. And then I remember that Elena is gone, and they're not. And I should be grateful. I am grateful, but instead, I just feel this guilt. Like I survived something I didn't deserve to survive. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she crossed the kitchen and stood in front of him. Mr. Garrett, I've been where you are. That place where breathing feels like a betrayal. Where waking up every morning feels like a punishment because someone you loved didn't get the same chance. She looked up at him, and her eyes were fierce. But your children didn't die in that car. They're still here. They're waiting for you. And every day you spend hiding from them is a day they spend wondering why their daddy doesn't love them anymore. Nathan's face crumpled. I do love them. I know you do. But love isn't enough if you don't show up. Love isn't enough if they can't feel it. The silence stretched between them. Outside, the night pressed dark against the windows. Will you help me? Nathan asked. His voice was barely a whisper. Will you teach me how to reach them again? Maya held his gaze for a long moment. Then she nodded. Tomorrow morning. Breakfast. 7 o'clock sharp. You're going to sit at that table with your children, and you're going to let them see that their father is still alive. Can you do that? Nathan swallowed hard. I can try. That's all anyone can do? Maya moved past him toward the hallway, then stopped. Mr. Garrett? Yes. Call me Maya. If we're going to do this, if we're going to bring your family back to life, we can't be strangers. Nathan nodded slowly. Nathan. My name is Nathan. Maya smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her since she arrived. Good night, Nathan. She disappeared down the hallway, and Nathan stood alone in the kitchen, feeling something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. Real hope. And it terrified him more than the grief ever had. The next morning at 6:47, Nathan stood outside the kitchen door, hand raised to push it open, heart pounding like he was about to walk into battle. Which in a way he was. He heard Maya inside singing while she cooked. The smell of bacon drifted through the crack in the door. Normal sounds. Normal smells. The stuff of ordinary mornings in ordinary families. But there was nothing ordinary about what he was about to do. Nathan pushed open the door. Maya looked up from the stove, gave him a small nod. At the kitchen table, Leo and Sophie sat in their usual spots. Sophie clutching her rabbit Leo, staring at his empty plate with that faraway look. Neither child reacted to Nathan's entrance. They hadn't reacted to his presence in years. He was wallpaper to them. Background noise. A ghost living in their house. Nathan walked to the table and sat down across from them. His hands were shaking. He put them flat on the table to hide it. Good morning, he said. His voice came out rougher than he intended. Both children flinched slightly. Nathan's stomach dropped. 3 words, and he'd already failed. But Maya was there setting a plate of scrambled eggs in front of Sophie, another in front of Leo. "Your daddy's going to eat breakfast with us today," she said casually. "Isn't that nice?" Sophie looked at Maya. Then slowly she looked at Nathan. It was the first time his daughter had looked at him directly in 3 years. Nathan felt tears spring to his eyes. He blinked them back furiously. "I used to make pancakes," he heard himself say. "On Sunday mornings, before everything. I made pancakes, and your mom would complain that I always burned the edges." Sophie's eyes stayed on his face, watching, waiting. "She was right," Nathan continued, his voice catching. "I always burned the edges, every single time. But you never complained. You ate them anyway, even the burnt parts." Leo's hand twitched on the table. He was listening. Nathan could tell he was listening. "I miss those Sundays," Nathan said. I miss a lot of things." The kitchen fell silent except for the tick of the clock on the wall. Then Sophie did something she hadn't done since the day of the accident. She picked up her fork. She scooped up a small bite of eggs. She ate. Leo watched his sister. Then he picked up his own fork and followed suit. Nathan sat at that kitchen table, watching his children eat breakfast for the first time in 3 years. And he felt something crack open in his chest. Something that had been frozen for so long he'd forgotten it was even there. Maya stood at the counter, tears streaming silently down her face, watching a father begin the long journey back to his children. It wasn't a miracle. Not yet. But it was a start. The days that followed that first breakfast together became a rhythm Nathan hadn't known he needed. Every morning at 7, he sat at the kitchen table. Every morning, Maya served the same simple meals, eggs, toast, fruit. Every morning, Leo and Sophie ate while Nathan talked. He talked about nothing important at first. The weather. A bird he'd seen outside. A funny story from when he was a boy. It didn't matter what he said. What mattered was that he was there, present, showing up. By the 3rd morning, Sophie started watching his face while he spoke. By the 5th morning, Leo had stopped staring at his plate and was glancing up at his father between bites. Small things. Tiny shifts. But in a house where nothing had changed for 3 years, tiny felt like everything. Maya never inserted herself into these moments. She stayed at the counter washing dishes, humming hymns, creating a backdrop of safety, while Nathan slowly rebuilt the bridge to his children. One morning, 2 weeks after Maya arrived, Nathan ran out of stories. He sat at the table, fork in hand, mind blank. The silence stretched. Sophie looked at him expectantly, waiting for words that wouldn't come. Nathan panicked. He could feel the moment slipping away, could feel himself failing again. Then Maya's voice drifted from the counter, soft and steady. "Tell them about the pancakes again." Nathan looked at her. "I already told that story." "Children love repetition, Nathan. It makes them feel safe. Tell it again." So he did. The same story about burning the edges, about Elena complaining about the twins eating them anyway. Word for word, almost exactly the same. And this time, something different happened. Sophie smiled. It was small, just a slight upturn at the corners of her mouth there, and gone in a heartbeat. But Nathan saw it. Maya saw it. "She remembers," Maya said quietly. "Somewhere inside she remembers those mornings." Nathan couldn't speak. His throat had closed completely. That afternoon he canceled his remaining meetings for the week. His assistant protested. The lawsuit was reaching critical stages. The board was demanding his attention. Nathan didn't care. "Push everything to next month," he said. "Sir, we can't just—" "I said push it." He hung up the phone and walked to the playroom where Maya sat cross-legged on the floor with both children building a tower of wooden blocks. "Can I join?" Nathan asked from the doorway. Maya looked up, surprised. "Of course." Nathan lowered himself to the floor, something he hadn't done in years. His knees protested. His back ached. He ignored both. Leo watched him with those guarded eyes, body tensing slightly at the intrusion. "I won't touch your blocks," Nathan said carefully. "I'll just watch. Is that okay?" Leo didn't respond, but he didn't scream, either didn't retreat to his corner. That was progress. Maya handed Nathan a single red block. "Hold this. When Leo's ready, he might want it." Nathan took the block. It felt absurd, a grown man, a billionaire who commanded boardrooms and negotiated billion-dollar deals, sitting on a playroom floor holding a children's toy like it was precious cargo. But he held it. And he waited. 20 minutes passed. Leo built his tower-higher block by careful block. Sophie sat nearby, clutching her rabbit, watching her brother work. Then Leo turned and looked at Nathan's hand. At the red block. Nathan held his breath. Leo reached out slowly, so slowly it was almost painful to watch, and took the block from Nathan's palm. Their fingers brushed for just a moment. Leo didn't flinch, didn't scream, didn't pull away. He simply took the block, turned back to his tower, and placed it carefully on top. Nathan looked at Maya and she was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. "That's the first time he's taken something from anyone but me," she whispered. Nathan pressed his hand to his mouth, trying to hold himself together, trying not to sob in front of his children. He failed. The tears came anyway, hot and fast and unstoppable. 3 years of frozen grief melting all at once. Leo looked at him, head tilted slightly, studying his father's face with something that might have been curiosity. "It's okay," Maya said softly to Leo, to Nathan, to all of them. "Crying is just feelings coming out. It means your heart is working." Leo considered this for a moment. Then he turned back to his tower and kept building. And Nathan sat on that playroom floor surrounded by blocks and tears and the first fragile threads of reconnection, and realized that Maya Thompson hadn't just saved his children. She was saving him too. The third week brought a breakthrough no one expected. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Maya was in the kitchen preparing lunch while Nathan sat in the playroom with the twins, practicing the art of being present without demanding anything in return. Sophie had been restless all morning, pacing in small circles, clutching her rabbit tighter than usual. Something was building inside her. Nathan could feel it, even if he couldn't name it. "She's working up to something," Maya had said earlier. "Don't push, just be there when it happens." So Nathan waited. He sat in the corner with a book he wasn't reading, watching his daughter pace, praying he would know what to do when the moment came. At 11:47, Sophie stopped pacing. She stood in the middle of the room, perfectly still, staring at Nathan. Then she walked toward him. Nathan's heart hammered. He set down the book. Forced himself to stay seated, stay calm, stay open. Sophie stopped directly in front of him. Her blue eyes, Elena's eyes, locked onto his face. And then she spoke. "Daddy." One word, barely a whisper, rough and unused like a door hinge that hadn't moved in years. But it was a word, her first word in 3 years, and she'd chosen to give it to him. Nathan couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't do anything but stare at his daughter as tears poured down his face. "Sophie," he choked out. "Baby girl." She took another step forward, then another. And then she did something she hadn't done since she was 3 years old. She climbed into his lap. Nathan's arms came around her, automatically, gently, terrified of holding too tight. Terrified of not holding tight enough. Sophie pressed her face against his chest, and he could feel her small body trembling. "I'm here," Nathan whispered into her hair. "Daddy's here. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. I promise." From the doorway, Maya watched with her hand pressed to her heart. Leo had stopped playing with his blocks and was staring at his father and sister with an expression that looked almost like longing. "Leo," Maya said softly, kneeling down to his level. "Do you want to go sit with Daddy and Sophie?" Leo shook his head quickly. "Not yet. Not ready." "That's okay," Maya said. "Whenever you're ready. There's no rush." But she saw it in his eyes. The wall was cracking. The ice was beginning to thaw. That night, after the twins were asleep, Nathan found Maya on the back porch, staring up at the stars. "Thank you," he said, stepping outside to join her. "That word isn't enough. I know it isn't. but thank you." Maya didn't look at him. "I didn't do anything. Sophie was ready. She just needed to know it was safe." "You made it safe. You made all of this possible." "God made it possible. I just showed up." Nathan stood beside her, looking up at the same stars. The night was clear and cold, and his breath came out in small clouds. "Can I ask you something personal?" he said. "You can ask. I might not answer." "Your niece, Kayla. Do you ever see her?" Maya was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady, but Nathan could hear the pain underneath. "Once a year. Her foster family sends pictures. She's 11 now. Beautiful. Happy, I think. They're good people. They love her like their own." "But she's not yours." "No. She's not mine." Maya finally looked at him. "That's the hardest part, you know. Loving someone else's child. Knowing you can never really claim them, no matter how much your heart says otherwise." Nathan felt the words land somewhere deep in his chest. "Is that how you feel about Leo and Sophie?" Maya's expression shifted. Guarded. Careful. "I feel a lot of things about your children, Nathan. Most of them I shouldn't." "What does that mean?" "It means I've been here 3 weeks and I already love them like they're mine. It means when Sophie said her first word today, I cried harder than I've cried in years. It means I'm getting attached in ways that are dangerous for everyone." "Why dangerous?" Maya turned to face him fully. "Because I'm the help, Nathan. I clean your house and care for your children and collect a paycheck. That's what I am. That's all I'm supposed to be." "And what if I don't want that to be all you are?" The question hung in the cold night air between them. Maya's eyes searched his face. "Don't say things you don't mean." "I've never meant anything more." "Nathan, I know how it sounds. I know it's too fast, too complicated, too everything. But something's happening here, Maya. Something I can't explain and can't ignore. You walked into my house and you woke us up. All of us. Me included." Maya stepped back, putting distance between them. Her arms crossed over her chest like armor. "You're grateful. That's what this is. I helped your children, and now you're confusing gratitude with something else. That's not what this is. You don't know what this is. You've been grieving for 3 years, Nathan. You're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking more clearly than I have since Elena died." "Don't." Maya's voice was sharp. "Don't say her name like that. Like I could ever replace her." "I'm not asking you to replace her. I'm asking you to—" Nathan stopped, took a breath. "I don't know what I'm asking. I just know that when I'm with you, I feel alive again, and I haven't felt alive in a very long time." Maya's eyes glistened in the starlight. "This can't happen." "Why not?" "Because I can't lose another family." Her voice broke on the last word. "I've already lost Denise, lost Kayla. I can't let myself love your children, love you, and then lose everything when reality sets in." "What reality?" "The reality that you're a billionaire and I'm a black woman who cleans houses for a living. The reality that your mother will never accept me. The reality that the world will look at us and see something wrong. I don't care what the world sees." "You say that now, but you will care, eventually. And when that day comes, your children will be the ones who suffer. They'll lose someone else they love. And I won't—" Maya's voice cracked. "I won't do that to them." She turned and walked back inside, leaving Nathan alone on the porch with the stars and the cold and the growing certainty that he was falling in love with a woman who was determined not to let him. The weeks continued, and so did the healing. Leo started speaking on a Thursday morning 3 weeks after Sophie. His first word wasn't "daddy" or "mama." It was "more." He said it at breakfast, looking at Maya pointing at the eggs on his plate. "More," he said, clear and deliberate. Maya nearly dropped the spatula. Nathan choked on his coffee. "More eggs?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. Leo nodded. "More. Please." 2 words. A complete request. A door opening that had been locked for 3 years. Maya served him more eggs with shaking hands, tears streaming down her face. Nathan reached across the table and squeezed Leo's shoulder a touch his son didn't pull away from. After that, the words came faster. Not sentences yet, but vocabulary, requests and observations, and occasionally names. Sophie started calling Maya Mama on a Tuesday afternoon. She said it so naturally, so casually, that at first no one reacted. Mama, look. Sophie held up a drawing she'd made 4 stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. Maya froze. What did you say, baby? Mama, look. Sophie pointed at the drawing. That's Daddy. That's Leo. That's me. That's Mama. She pointed at each figure in turn, and when her finger landed on the 4th one, the stick figure with brown skin and curly hair, Maya understood exactly what was happening. Sophie had claimed her. That's beautiful, sweetheart, Maya whispered, taking the drawing with trembling hands. That's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Nathan stood in the doorway watching his daughter present a picture of their family, a family that included Maya at its center. That night, he found Maya in her room, sitting on the edge of her bed, holding Sophie's drawing. She called me Mama, Maya said without looking up. I heard. I should correct her. I should explain that I'm not. Not what? Not her mother. Nathan sat down beside Maya. You're the closest thing to a mother she's had in 3 years. You're the one who brought her back. You're the one who taught her to trust again. That doesn't make me her mother. Maybe not biologically, but family isn't always about blood, Maya. You taught me that. Maya finally looked at him. Her eyes were red from crying. What am I supposed to do? Let them call me Mama, and then leave when this job ends. Break their hearts all over again. Who says the job has to end? Nathan, don't. Move in permanently, not as an employee, as family. Maya stood up abruptly, putting distance between them. You don't know what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. I love you, Maya. I've been trying not to say it, trying to give you space, but I can't pretend anymore. I love you. My children love you. This house loves you. Stay. Love isn't enough. Why do people keep saying that? Nathan stood, too, frustration creeping into his voice. Love is the only thing that matters. Everything else is just noise. Noise. Maya turned on him. Your mother coming here and looking at me like I'm something she stepped in, that's noise? Your friends at the country club, whispering about the billionaire who's sleeping with his maid, that's noise. The world treating our children differently because their mother is black, that's noise. Yes, all of it. Noise. You can afford to call it noise, Nathan. You're rich and white and powerful. No one questions your place in the world. But me, I've spent my whole life being questioned, being doubted, being looked at like I don't belong. You belong here, with us. You can't promise me that. You can't promise that a year from now, 5 years from now, you won't wake up and realize you made a mistake. That you won't look at me across some fancy dinner party and feel embarrassed. I would never. You don't know that. Maya's voice dropped to a whisper. And I can't risk finding out. Not with Leo and Sophie's hearts on the line. Not with my own heart on the line. Nathan wanted to argue, wanted to convince her that she was wrong, that he would never hurt her, that they could build something real despite everything stacked against them. But he saw the fear in her eyes, the bone-deep terror of someone who had lost too much already and couldn't bear to lose again. Okay, he said quietly. Maya blinked. Okay. I won't push you. I won't pressure you, but I need you to know something. Nathan stepped closer, close enough to see the tears she was trying not to cry. I'm not going anywhere. However long it takes for you to believe that I mean what I say, I'll wait. However many times you need to hear that you belong here, I'll say it. And if after all of that you still want to leave, then I'll let you go. But I won't stop fighting for us, not until you tell me there's nothing to fight for. Maya's composure cracked. A tear slipped down her cheek. Why? She whispered. Why do you want this so badly? Because you're the first person who's made me feel like living again. Because my children light up when you walk into a room. Because when I imagine my future, any future worth having, you're in it. Nathan reached out and wiped the tear from her cheek. I love you, Maya Thompson. And I hope that somewhere inside you love me too. Maya closed her eyes. For a long moment she didn't speak. Then so quietly he almost didn't hear it. I do. God help me, I do. Nathan's heart cracked open. Then stay. Please. Stay, and let's figure the rest out together. Maya opened her eyes, looked at him, looked through him, seeing all the ways this could go wrong, all the reasons she should run. But she didn't run. Okay, she whispered. I'll stay. Nathan pulled her into his arms. She let him. For the first time since they'd met, she let herself be held. And somewhere in the house, 2 children slept peacefully, dreaming of a family that was slowly, impossibly becoming whole. The days that followed were the happiest Nathan could remember since Elena died. They fell into a rhythm, the 4 of them. Breakfast together every morning. Playtime in the afternoons. Dinner around the kitchen table with actual conversation, now that Leo and Sophie were finding more words every day. Nathan started reading bedtime stories again. Maya would lean against the doorframe and listen as he did voices for the characters, making the twins giggle, actually giggle at his terrible impressions. Your big bad wolf sounds like a sick cat, Maya told him one night after the children were asleep. Hey, I'm doing my best here. Your best is terrible. The kids like it. The kids are 6. They like chicken nuggets shaped like dinosaurs. Nathan laughed, really laughed for the first time in years. Maya watched him with something soft in her eyes. What? He asked. Nothing. I like seeing you happy. I like being happy. I forgot what it felt like. They were standing in the hallway between the children's rooms, speaking in whispers, and the intimacy of it, the shared secret of their late-night conversations, felt dangerous in the best possible way. Maya, Nathan said, stepping closer. Nathan, we should... He kissed her. Soft. Gentle. A question more than a statement. Maya froze for just a moment. Then her hands came up to his chest, not pushing away, just resting there, feeling his heartbeat. When they broke apart, her eyes were wide. We shouldn't, she whispered. I know. The children are right down the hall. I know. Your mother could show up any day to check on things. I definitely know. Maya laughed despite herself. This is crazy. The best things usually are. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she stood on her toes and kissed him back. This time, there was nothing gentle about it. When they finally separated, both breathing hard, Maya pressed her forehead against his. We're doing this, aren't we? She said. For real. We're doing this. For real. Your mother is going to lose her mind. Probably. The world is going to have opinions. Let them. Nathan. I love you. You love me. Our children love you. Everything else is details. Maya pulled back to look at him. Our children. Nathan felt his face flush. I mean, no. You said it. A smile spread across Maya's face. You said our children. I guess I did. Do you mean it? Nathan thought about Leo taking that block from his hand. Thought about Sophie climbing into his lap and calling him daddy. Thought about both of them calling Maya mama like it was the most natural thing in the world. Yeah, he said. I mean it. If you want them, if you want us, then they're ours. All 4 of us together. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Happy tears this time. I want that, she whispered. I want that more than I've ever wanted anything. Nathan pulled her close, held her tight, and felt the last frozen pieces of his heart finally completely thaw. They had no idea that in 3 days, everything would fall apart. The doorbell rang at 8:47 on a Thursday morning. Maya was at the stove flipping pancakes, while Leo and Sophie sat at the kitchen table arguing over who got the first one. Nathan had gone upstairs to grab his phone, planning to cancel yet another meeting so he could spend the day with his family. Their family. The word still made Maya's heart swell every time she thought it. "I'll get it," she called out, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She walked to the front door expecting a delivery, maybe a neighbor. What she found instead made her blood run cold. Victoria Garrett stood on the doorstep. Nathan's mother was 63 years old, immaculately dressed in a cream-colored coat that probably cost more than Maya's car. Her silver hair was styled perfectly, not a strand out of place. Her eyes swept over Maya with the kind of assessment that made it clear she was cataloging everything: the flower on Maya's apron, the casual clothes, the natural hair pulled back in a simple wrap. "You must be the help," Victoria said. Her voice was polite. Her eyes were not. Maya felt her spine stiffen. "I'm Maya Thompson. Can I help you?" "I'm here to see my son and my grandchildren. I assume they're home." "Nathan is upstairs. The children are having breakfast." Victoria's eyebrow arched slightly at Maya's use of Nathan's first name. "I see. Well, are you going to invite me in, or shall I stand on the porch like a stranger?" Maya stepped aside, her instincts screaming that this woman was dangerous. She'd dealt with enough wealthy employers over the years to recognize the type: the ones who smiled while they cut you down, who wielded politeness like a weapon. Victoria walked into the foyer without thanking her. Her heels clicked against the hardwood as she looked around, taking in the state of the house. "The place looks different," she said. "Livelier than the last time I visited. The children have been doing well." "So I've heard." Victoria turned to face Maya. "My son has been remarkably unavailable these past few weeks. Cancelled meetings, ignored calls. His assistant tells me he's been working from home." The quotation marks were audible in her voice. "I came to see for myself what could possibly be more important than a lawsuit that might cost his company $200 million. Before Maya could respond, Nathan's voice came from the top of the stairs. "Mother?" He descended quickly, his face carefully neutral, but Maya could see the tension in his shoulders. "Nathan, darling." Victoria offered her cheek for a kiss. Nathan obliged stiffly. "You look rested. I don't think I've seen you this relaxed since before Elena passed." "The children are doing better. We've all been doing better." "So I see." Victoria's gaze slid back to Maya. "Your housekeeper was just telling me." "Maya isn't just a housekeeper," Nathan said. "She's a caregiver. She's been incredible with Leo and Sophie." "I'm sure she has." Victoria smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Why don't we have some coffee and catch up? I've driven all the way from Manhattan to see my grandchildren." Nathan looked at Maya, a silent apology in his eyes. Maya gave him a tiny nod and turned back toward the kitchen. "I'll bring coffee to the living room," she said, "and I'll keep the children occupied until you're ready." "Actually," Victoria said, "I'd like to see the children now. It's been months since their grandmother visited. I'm sure they've missed me." Maya watched Nathan's jaw tighten. The children barely knew their grandmother. Victoria had visited perhaps 3 times since Elena's death, each visit lasting less than an hour before she'd made excuses and left. "They're in the middle of breakfast," Nathan said carefully. "Why don't we let them finish and then—" "Nonsense. I won't stay long." Victoria was already walking toward the kitchen. "I just want to see how much they've grown." Maya moved quickly, reaching the kitchen before Victoria. Leo and Sophie were still at the table, Sophie chattering away about wanting more syrup, while Leo carefully cut his pancake into precise squares. "Hey, sweet ones," Maya said gently, kneeling between their chairs. "You have a visitor. Your grandmother is here to see you." "Why?" Sophie looked up confused. "Grandma?" "Your daddy's mother. Remember, she visited at Christmas?" Sophie's face scrunched up, trying to recall. Leo had stopped cutting his pancake and was watching the doorway with wary eyes. Victoria swept into the kitchen, and everything changed. The children froze. Sophie's chatter died mid-sentence. Leo's hands gripped his fork so tightly his knuckles went white. It was like watching flowers close up at the first sign of frost. "My darlings," Victoria approached with arms outstretched. "Look how big you've gotten. Come give Grandma a hug." Neither child moved. Sophie pressed herself back against her chair. Leo's eyes darted to Maya, searching for reassurance. "It's okay," Maya said softly. "You don't have to hug anyone if you don't want to." Victoria's smile flickered. "Excuse me. They've been working on boundaries," Maya explained, keeping her voice calm. "Learning that they're in control of their own bodies. They'll come to you when they're ready." "I'm their grandmother. I hardly think I need permission to embrace my own grandchildren." "Mother." Nathan stepped into the kitchen, his voice firm. "Maya's right. The therapist said we need to let them set the pace with physical contact." Victoria's expression shifted, just for a moment. Something ugly flickered beneath the polished surface. Then the mask was back in place. "Of course. How progressive." She lowered her arms and fixed her smile. "Well, children, I'll just sit here and visit with you while you finish your breakfast. Would you like that?" Sophie looked at Maya uncertainly. Maya nodded encouragingly. "Okay," Sophie whispered. Victoria pulled out a chair and sat down at the table, positioning herself directly across from the twins. Maya moved back to the stove, resuming the pancakes, but she could feel Victoria's eyes on her the entire time. "So," Victoria said to the children, "tell Grandma what you've been doing. Do you have any new toys? Any new books?" Silence. Sophie was staring at her plate. Leo had resumed cutting his pancake with mechanical precision. "They've been reading every night," Nathan said, filling the awkward void. "Maya found this series about rabbits that they love." "How nice." Victoria's voice was honeyed. "And what else has Maya been teaching you?" The emphasis on Maya's name was subtle but unmistakable. Maya felt it like a needle between her ribs. "Mama teaches us songs," Sophie said suddenly. The kitchen went completely still. Victoria's head swiveled toward Sophie. "What did you say?" "Mama teaches us songs. And how to draw. And how to make cookies." Sophie pointed at Maya with her fork. "Mama's the best." Maya closed her eyes. Of all the moments for Sophie to find her courage. "Mama." Victoria's voice was dangerously quiet. She turned to look at Nathan. "The children are calling the hired help Mama." "Mother. Elena has been dead for 3 years, and you've already let some stranger replace her." "It's not like that." "Then what is it like, Nathan? Please explain to me how my grandchildren came to call the woman who cleans your toilets Mama." Maya's hands trembled as she set down the spatula. She turned to face Victoria, drawing on every ounce of strength she possessed. "Mrs. Garrett, perhaps we should discuss this somewhere else. The children. The children need to understand who their mother is," Victoria snapped. "Their mother was Elena Catherine Whitmore Garrett, my daughter-in-law, the woman who gave them life. Not some—" She stopped herself, but the unsaid word hung in the air like poison. "That's enough." Nathan's voice was low and dangerous. "Maya, please take the children to the playroom." Maya moved quickly, gathering Leo and Sophie, who had both gone pale and silent. Sophie was clutching Maya's hand so tightly it hurt. Leo had started the subtle rocking that meant he was overwhelmed. "It's okay," Maya murmured as she led them out. "It's okay, sweet ones. Everything's fine." But nothing was fine. She could hear Nathan and Victoria's voices rising as she walked the children down the hallway. "You need to let her go," Victoria was saying. "Today, this has gone too far. You don't get to walk into my house and make demands about my family." "Family? That woman is not family, Nathan. She's an employee. And if you can't see the difference, then you're more lost than I thought." Maya closed the playroom door and knelt down in front of the twins. "Listen to me," she said, forcing her voice to stay steady. "What's happening out there that's grown-up stuff? It's not about you, and it's not your fault. Okay." Sophie's eyes were filling with tears. "Is Grandma mad at you?" She doesn't understand some things, but it's going to be okay." "Don't go," Leo said suddenly. Maya's heart cracked. "What? Don't go away." Leo's voice was small but fierce. "You're our mama. Don't go away." Maya pulled both children into her arms, holding them tight as the voices in the kitchen grew louder. "I'm not going anywhere," she whispered. But even as she said it, she wondered if that was a promise she could keep. The argument lasted over an hour. Maya stayed in the playroom with the twins, reading stories, singing hymns, doing everything she could to drown out the sounds of Nathan and his mother tearing each other apart. Finally, she heard the front door slam. A car engine starting. The crunch of gravel as Victoria drove away. Then footsteps. Nathan appeared in the playroom doorway, looking like he'd aged 10 years. "They okay?" he asked quietly. "They're shaken, but they'll be fine." Maya smoothed Sophie's hair as the little girl dozed against her shoulder. Leo was on the floor, methodically lining up toy cars, his way of self-soothing. "What happened?" Nathan ran a hand over his face. "She gave me an ultimatum. Fire you, or she's cutting me out of the family trust." Maya felt the blood drain from her face. "Nathan, I told her to do whatever she needs to do. The money doesn't matter." "The money always matters. Don't pretend it doesn't." "Not more than you. Not more than them." Nathan looked at his children with something fierce in his eyes. "She stood in my kitchen and said—" He stopped, shook his head. "It doesn't matter what she said." "Yes, it does. Tell me." Nathan was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. "She said Elena would be ashamed of me. For letting the children call you Mama. For—" He swallowed hard. "For being with a woman like you." "A woman like me." Maya's voice was flat. "She means black." She didn't say it outright. She didn't have to. Maya gently shifted Sophie onto the couch cushion and stood up. "Nathan, maybe she's right." "What?" "Not about being ashamed, but about everything else." Maya crossed her arms, hugging herself like she could hold all the broken pieces together. "I've been lying to myself, pretending that love is enough, that we can make this work through sheer force of will. But your mother just showed me what reality looks like. My mother is a bitter, lonely woman who hasn't felt genuine happiness in 30 years. She's not reality, she's misery dressed in Chanel. She's your family. She's the twins' grandmother. And she's never going to accept me, Nathan, ever. Then she doesn't get to be part of our lives. You can't cut off your mother for me. Watch me." "Nathan, stop." Maya's voice cracked. "This isn't some fairy tale where love conquers all. This is real life. And in real life, women who look like me don't get happy endings with men who look like you. We get temporary. We get, for now. We get discarded when things get hard." "That's not who I am." "You don't know who you are. Not yet. You've been grieving for 3 years, and I was the first person who made you feel something again. But that doesn't mean—" Her voice broke. "It doesn't mean it's real." Nathan crossed the room in 3 strides and took her hands in his. "Look at me." Maya raised her eyes reluctantly. "This is real," Nathan said. "What I feel for you is real. What our children feel for you is real. And I don't care if my mother accepts it, or if society accepts it, or if anyone in the world accepts it. The only acceptance that matters is ours. You say that now. I'll say it forever, every day, as many times as you need to hear it." Nathan lifted her hands to his lips, kissed her knuckles. "Don't let my mother's poison make you doubt what we have. That's exactly what she wants." Maya closed her eyes, fighting back tears. "I'm scared, Nathan." "I know. I'm scared too. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." She let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "You already said that once." "I'll keep saying it until you believe it." From the couch, Sophie stirred. "Mama, Daddy." Nathan and Maya separated quickly. Maya went to Sophie, smoothing her hair, checking her forehead for fever, a motherly instinct that came as naturally as breathing. "I'm here, sweet girl. Daddy's here too." Sophie blinked up at them both, still drowsy. "Is Grandma gone?" "Yes, baby. She went home." "Good." Sophie snuggled deeper into the cushion. She was mean. Nathan and Maya exchanged a look over her head, out of the mouths of babes. "Try to sleep a little more," Maya said. "I'll wake you up for lunch." But as Sophie's eyes closed again, Maya knew that nothing had been resolved. Victoria Garrett wasn't the type to accept defeat. She would be back with reinforcements, with lawyers, with whatever weapons she could muster. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. 2 weeks passed. Quiet weeks. Good weeks. Victoria didn't call, didn't visit, didn't make any moves at all, which somehow felt more ominous than if she'd been actively attacking. "She's planning something," Nathan said one night lying in bed beside Maya. They'd started sharing a room quietly, naturally, like it had always been meant to be. "I know. We should be ready." "I know that too." Nathan turned to look at her in the darkness. "Are you having second thoughts?" "Every day," Maya admitted. "And then I wake up and see the twins' faces, and I hear them call me Mama, and all those thoughts disappear. But they come back. They always come back. That's what fear does." Maya stared at the ceiling. "My grandmother called yesterday." "What did she say?" "That she's proud of me. That she can hear in my voice how happy I am. And then she said—" Maya paused. "She said to be careful. That happiness in our world always comes with a price." "What did you tell her?" "That the price is worth paying." Nathan reached over and took her hand. "Is it—" Maya turned her head to look at him. This man who had come into her life broken and desperate. This man whose children had become her children, whose grief had become her purpose, whose love had become her home. "Ask me again in 50 years, she said. Nathan smiled. "I will." The phone call came on a Saturday morning. Nathan was outside with the twins teaching Leo how to throw a football while Sophie cheered from the sidelines. Maya was in the kitchen humming while she made lemonade. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Hello, Miss Thompson. This is Rebecca Chen from Child Protective Services." Maya's blood turned to ice. "We've received a report concerning the welfare of Leo and Sophie Garrett. I'll need to schedule a home visit at your earliest convenience." "A report? What kind of report?" "I'm not at liberty to discuss the details over the phone, but the allegations are serious enough to warrant investigation. Is Monday at 10 a.m. acceptable?" Maya's hand was shaking so hard she could barely hold the phone. "Yes, Monday is fine." "Thank you. We'll see you then." The line went dead. Maya stood frozen in the kitchen, the lemonade forgotten her entire world tilting on its axis. Victoria. This had Victoria written all over it. "Maya." Nathan's voice came from the back door. "You okay? You look pale." Maya turned to face him. The twins were still outside, visible through the window, playing in the yard, like nothing was wrong. "CPS is coming Monday," Maya said. "Someone filed a report about the children's welfare." Nathan's face went white. "What? They wouldn't tell me the details. But Nathan—" Her voice cracked. "If they find anything wrong, if they decide the children are at risk." She couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't say out loud what they both knew. CPS could take the children away. Put them in foster care. Tear apart the family they'd worked so hard to build. All because Victoria Garrett couldn't accept that her grandchildren loved a black woman. Nathan moved to Maya, pulled her into his arms. She was trembling. "We'll fight this," he said fiercely. "Whatever she's done, whatever lies she's told, we'll fight it. And if we lose—" Nathan pulled back, held her face in his hands. "We won't lose. I won't let that happen. I will burn everything I own to the ground before I let anyone take our children." Maya searched his eyes, looking for doubt, for hesitation. She found only fire. "Okay," she whispered. "Then we fight." Monday came too fast, and not fast enough. Rebecca Chen arrived at exactly 10 a.m., a small woman with kind eyes and a clipboard full of forms. She introduced herself, shook hands with Nathan and Maya, and asked to see the children's rooms. "Of course," Nathan said. "Whatever you need." And they walked her through the house, showed her the playroom, the bedrooms, the kitchen. She took notes, asked questions about routines and meals and medical care. "The children seem well adjusted," Rebecca said as they returned to the living room. "Happy even." "They've come a long way," Maya said carefully. "When I started here, they weren't speaking at all." "Yes, I read the background." Rebecca looked at her notes. "The report we received alleged emotional manipulation and inappropriate attachment fostered by an unqualified caregiver. It also alleged that the children were being isolated from extended family members." Maya felt Nathan tense beside her. "That's not true," he said. "None of that is true. Mr. Garrett, I understand this is difficult. My mother filed this report, didn't she, Victoria Garrett?" Rebecca's expression didn't change, but her hesitation was answer enough. "My mother hasn't seen these children more than 5 times since their mother died." Nathan continued, his voice rising. "She shows no interest in them unless it serves her purposes. And she filed this report because she can't accept that Maya has done more for my children in 2 months than she's done in 3 years. Mr. Garrett, Maya brought my children back to life. They were nonverbal, completely withdrawn, and she reached them when no one else could. If that's manipulation, then I don't know what else to call love." Rebecca closed her notebook. "Mr. Garrett, I appreciate your passion. And from what I've seen today, your children are thriving. But I have a job to do, and part of that job is interviewing the children directly." Maya's heart stopped. "Interview them." "Standard procedure. I need to hear from them in their own words, how they feel about their living situation." "They're 6 years old," Maya said. "They've been through trauma. If you pressure them—" "I won't pressure them. I'm very experienced with children who've experienced trauma." Rebecca's voice was gentle but firm. "This is to protect them, Miss Thompson. I promise." Maya and Nathan exchanged a look. They had no choice. "Okay," Nathan said, "but we stay in the room." "Actually, it's better if I speak with them alone. Children are more honest without their parents present." "Absolutely not." "Nathan," Maya put her hand on his arm. "Let her do her job." Nathan looked at her like she was crazy, but Maya held his gaze, trying to communicate what she couldn't say out loud. "If they fight this, they look guilty. If they cooperate, they have nothing to hide." Nathan's jaw clenched, but he nodded. Rebecca went to the playroom alone. The door closed. Maya and Nathan stood in the hallway, holding hands, barely breathing. 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. When Rebecca finally emerged, her expression was unreadable. "Thank you for your cooperation," she said. "I'll file my report by end of week." "What did they say?" Nathan asked. "Are they okay?" "They're fine. Happy children, clearly well cared for." Rebecca gathered her things. "I can't discuss the specifics of my report, but I will say this: whatever concerns prompted the initial complaint, I didn't see evidence of them today." Relief flooded through Maya so hard she nearly collapsed. "You'll be in touch?" Nathan asked. "If there's any follow-up needed, yes. Otherwise, you should receive official notification that the case has been closed." Rebecca paused at the front door. "Mr. Garrett, for what it's worth, your children spoke very highly of Miss Thompson. They called her Mama multiple times without prompting. Whatever your relationship is, those children clearly feel safe and loved." She left. Nathan turned to Maya and pulled her into his arms. "It's over," he breathed. "We did it." But Maya couldn't shake the chill that had settled in her bones. Victoria had failed this time. But women like Victoria didn't accept failure. She would try again, and again, and again, until Maya was gone, or the family was destroyed. There was only one way to end this. That night, after the children were asleep, Maya sat at the kitchen table and wrote her resignation letter. 2 weeks' notice, professional, polite. No mention of Victoria or CPS or any of the rest. Just a clean break. She would leave and the attacks would stop. Nathan could rebuild his relationship with his mother. The children would grieve, but children were resilient. They would recover. and Maya would go back to her old life, cleaning houses, sending checks to her grandmother, surviving. She'd done it before. She could do it again. When Nathan came downstairs and found her at the table with the letter in front of her, he stopped dead. "What is that?" Maya couldn't meet his eyes. "You know what it is." "No." Nathan crossed to the table, grabbed the letter. "Read it." His face went pale, then red with fury. "No. Absolutely not." "Nathan, you think I'm going to let you sacrifice yourself to appease my mother? You think that's what I want? It's not about what you want, it's about protecting those children." "You think leaving them will protect them?" Nathan's voice cracked. "Maya, they lost their mother 3 years ago, and they've spent every day since then in the dark, lost, unreachable. Until you. You brought them back. You gave them a reason to speak, to trust, to love. And now you want to abandon them." "I'm not abandoning them. I'm saving them from your mother. My mother will find something else to attack, someone else to blame. That's who she is. But if you leave..." Nathan's voice broke. "If you leave, I don't know if they'll recover. I don't know if I'll recover." Maya finally looked at him, saw the tears streaming down his face. "I love you," she whispered. "I love them. That's why I have to go." "That's backwards. That's insane. Love is a reason to stay, not to run." "In your world, maybe. But in my world..." Maya stood up, exhaustion weighing down every bone in her body. "In my world, love is never enough. I've learned that lesson so many times, Nathan, and I can't learn it again. Not with them. Not with you." She walked past him toward the stairs. "Maya." She stopped, but didn't turn around. "If you walk out that door," Nathan said quietly, "I will follow you. I will drive to wherever you go, and I will beg you to come back. Every single day. For the rest of my life." Maya closed her eyes. "Don't." "I will. Because that's what love is. It's not giving up when things get hard. It's fighting for each other even when the fight seems impossible. Some fights can't be won. And some can. We won't know unless we try." Maya stood there in the doorway, torn between two impossible choices. Leave and break everyone's hearts, including her own. Stay and wait for Victoria's next attack, and the one after that, and the one after that. Then from upstairs, a small voice called out, "Mama, Daddy, Leo, awake probably from a nightmare." Maya's feet moved before her brain could stop them. Up the stairs, down the hall, into the children's room, where Leo sat up in bed, tears on his cheeks. "Bad dream," he whimpered. "Monster was taking you away." Maya climbed onto the bed and pulled him into her arms. "No monster's taking me anywhere," she said softly. "I'm right here. Promise." Maya looked up. Nathan stood in the doorway watching them, his heart in his eyes. "Promise," Maya whispered, and in that moment, she made her choice. She would stay. She would fight. And God help anyone who tried to take her family away. Maya stayed. She tore up the resignation letter the next morning, and when Nathan found the shredded pieces in the trash, he didn't say anything. He just walked up behind her while she was making breakfast, wrapped his arms around her waist, and held her for a long moment. "Thank you," he murmured against her hair. "Don't thank me yet. Your mother isn't finished." "I know, but we'll face whatever comes, together." Together. The word felt like armor, like maybe if they held tight enough to each other, nothing could tear them apart. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. No calls from Victoria. No more CPS visits. No lawyers showing up at the door with papers. Just quiet days filled with breakfast routines and bedtime stories, and the slow, steady miracle of 2 children learning how to be children again. Leo started stringing words into sentences. Not perfect sentences. His speech was still halting, still careful, but real communication that made Maya's heart swell every time she heard it. "Mama, can we go outside? I want to see the birds." Daddy read the rabbit book again, the one where he finds his family. Sophie became bolder, more confident. She started telling stories of her own elaborate tales about princesses and dragons, and a magical helper who came to save everyone when things got dark. "The helper has curly hair," Sophie told Maya one afternoon. "Like yours. And she sings songs that make the scared people feel brave." Maya had to leave the room so Sophie wouldn't see her cry. Nathan noticed the change in all of them. In his children, yes, but also in himself. He laughed more easily now, slept better, found himself looking forward to each day instead of dreading it. "I forgot what this felt like," he told Maya one night as they sat on the back porch watching fireflies blink in the darkness. "Being happy, actually wanting to be alive. That's not something you should forget." "I know. But after Elena..." He paused, and Maya saw the old grief flicker across his face. "After she died, I think part of me decided I didn't deserve to be happy anymore. Like happiness was betraying her memory." "You think she'd want you to be miserable forever?" "No. God, no. Elena would have hated seeing me like that. She would have told me to get off my ass and be a father to our kids." Nathan smiled sadly. "She was fierce like that. Never let anyone wallow. Sounds like she was a good woman." "She was. The best." Nathan turned to look at Maya, and his expression shifted from grief to something warmer, more present. "But she's gone, and I'm here, and so are you. And I hope she'd be glad I found someone who loves our children as much as she did." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "I do love them, more than I ever thought possible." "I know you do. They know it too." Nathan took her hand. "That's why we're going to win, Maya. Whatever my mother throws at us. Because what we have is real, and real love doesn't break that easily." Maya wanted to believe him, she really did, but she'd been on the losing end of too many battles to trust in victory before it came. The attack came on a Tuesday. Nathan was at work, a board meeting he couldn't avoid, the first one he'd attended in weeks. Maya was in the playroom with the twins when she heard the front door open. She hadn't locked it. Stupid. Careless. But this was supposed to be a safe place, and she'd gotten comfortable. "Nathan," she called out. "You're home early." No response. Maya's instincts flared. She stood positioning herself between the children and the doorway. "Stay here," she told Leo and Sophie quietly. "I'll be right back." She walked toward the front of the house, heart-hammering, and stopped dead when she saw who was standing in the foyer. Victoria Garrett. But not alone. Behind her stood a man in a dark suit holding a briefcase. A lawyer. And behind him 2 uniformed police officers. Maya's blood turned to ice. "Mrs. Garrett, what is this?" Victoria's smile was triumphant. "This is what should have happened months ago, Miss Thompson. This is justice." The lawyer stepped forward. "I have a court order granting Mrs. Victoria Garrett temporary emergency custody of the minor children Leo and Sophie Garrett." Maya couldn't breathe. "That's not possible." "I assure you it is." The lawyer held out a folder of papers. "These documents have been signed by Judge Harrison Mitchell. They grant Mrs. Garrett custody pending a full hearing based on evidence of neglect and emotional harm caused by an unqualified caregiver." "Neglect?" Maya's voice rose. "Those children were nonverbal for 3 years until I came into this house. They're happy. They're thriving. You saw the CPS report." "The CPS report has been supplemented with additional evidence," the lawyer said smoothly. "Expert testimony from Dr. Reginald Marsh, a child psychologist with 30 years of experience, stating that the children have been manipulated into forming an unhealthy attachment to a woman with no professional qualifications. Dr. Marsh has never met those children, has never set foot in this house. He reviewed the case files. That was sufficient for the court." Maya turned to Victoria, rage burning through her fear. "You bought a judge. You bought a psychologist. You're stealing your grandchildren because you can't accept that they love me." Victoria's smile didn't waver. "I'm protecting my grandchildren from a woman who has systematically turned them against their own family. When this is over, you'll be charged with child endangerment. Perhaps that will teach women like you to stay in your place." The words hit like a slap. Women like you, stay in your place. Maya had heard those words before. Different versions, different voices, but always the same message. You don't belong. You never will. "You can't do this," Maya said. "Nathan will fight this. Nathan isn't here." Victoria glanced at the police officers. "Take the children." "No." Maya stepped backward toward the playroom. "No, you're not taking them." The officers moved forward. One of them put his hand on his belt, not on his weapon, but the message was clear. "Ma'am, please step aside. We don't want to make this difficult. They're 6 years old. They've been through trauma. If you drag them out of this house, we've been trained to handle these situations. The children will be safe." Safe. The word was obscene. These strangers in uniforms were going to rip 2 traumatized children away from the only mother figure they'd known in years, and they called it safe. Maya's mind raced. She could fight. She could barricade herself in the playroom with the twins refuse to come out until Nathan arrived. But the police would break down the door. The children would see it. The trauma would scar them for life. Or she could go quietly. Let them take Leo and Sophie, and trust that Nathan would fix this. But trust had failed her before. Trust had lost her Kayla. "Please," Maya said, and she hated how her voice shook. "Please don't do this. Whatever problems you have with me, take them out on me. Don't punish those children for loving me." Victoria's expression flickered just for a moment, something human passing behind those cold eyes. Then it was gone. "Bring them out," she said to the officers. They walked past Maya into the playroom. She heard Sophie scream first high and terrified and heartbreaking. "Mama, Mama." Then Leo's voice lower but just as desperate. "No, don't want to go. Want Mama." Maya tried to follow, but the lawyer stepped into her path. "If you interfere, you'll be arrested. I don't think that will help your case." Maya stood frozen helpless as the officers emerged from the playroom. One carried Leo, who was thrashing and screaming. The other had Sophie, who was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. "Mama!" Sophie reached toward Maya with both arms. "Mama, don't let them take us." Maya's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. "I love you," she called out, tears streaming down her face. "I love you both. Daddy's going to fix this. I promise Daddy's going to fix this." But the children were already being carried out the front door. Their screams echoed through the house even after the door closed. Even after the car engine started. Even after the crunch of gravel faded into silence. Maya stood alone in the empty foyer, surrounded by the ghosts of everything she'd lost. Then she grabbed her phone and called Nathan. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, I'm just finishing up here. Should be home in..." "They took them." Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "Your mother came with police and a court order. They took Leo and Sophie." Silence. Then, "What?" "She has temporary emergency custody. Some judge signed off on it. Nathan, they dragged them out of the house screaming. They were calling for me and I couldn't. I couldn't stop them. I'm coming home, right now. Don't move. Don't do anything. I'm coming home." The line went dead. Maya sank to her knees in the middle of the foyer and wept. Nathan arrived 23 minutes later. He found Maya exactly where she'd collapsed, curled on the hardwood floor, her body shaking with sobs that had long since run dry. "Maya." He dropped to his knees beside her, pulled her into his arms. "Maya, look at me." She raised her head. Her eyes were swollen, her face streaked with tears, and Nathan had never seen anyone look so completely broken. "I tried to stop them," she said. "I begged them, but they had police and papers, and I didn't know what to do." "This isn't your fault." Nathan's voice was fierce, even as his own tears fell. "This is my mother. This is all my mother. And I swear to God I will burn down everything she has before I let her keep our children." "What if you can't? What if she's already won?" She hasn't won. She's won a battle, not the war. I'm going to call every lawyer in the city. I'm going to file every motion possible. I'm going to stand in front of that judge myself and tell him exactly what kind of woman my mother is. Nathan. I'm not losing them, Maya. I'm not losing you. He held her face in his hands. We're going to get them back. I promise you. We're going to get them back. Maya wanted to believe him, but all she could hear were Sophie's screams echoing in the empty house like ghosts. The next 72 hours were a blur of lawyers and phone calls and emergency motions. Nathan hired the best family law firm in Connecticut, 3 attorneys who charged more per hour than most people made in a week. They filed an emergency appeal challenging the custody order. They demanded to know what evidence Victoria had presented. They subpoenaed Dr. Marsh's records and discovered he'd been paid $50,000 for his expert opinion. She bought everyone, Nathan said, pacing his study, while the lead attorney, a woman named Sandra Price, reviewed the case file. The judge, the psychologist, probably even the CPS worker who wrote that supplemental report. Judge Mitchell has been on the bench for 20 years, Sandra said. He's never been formally accused of corruption, but he's also known to be sympathetic to certain families. Old money, old connections. My mother's money, my mother's connections. Exactly. Sandra closed the file. Here's what we're up against. Your mother has positioned herself as a concerned grandmother, trying to protect her grandchildren from an unsuitable influence. The court order is based on allegations that Maya has no professional qualifications to care for special needs children, that she's created an unhealthy attachment that isolates the children from extended family, and that her romantic relationship with you represents a conflict of interest. Maya sat in the corner of the study listening, but not speaking. She hadn't slept since the children were taken, hadn't eaten. The house felt like a tomb without Leo and Sophie in it. What about the CPS investigation? Nathan asked. They cleared us. The initial investigation did, but the supplemental report, the one your mother's people filed, raised new concerns. It's enough to justify the emergency order, at least temporarily. So what do we do? Sandra leaned forward. We fight. We get our own experts to testify about the children's progress under Maya's care. We subpoena the twins' medical records from before and after she arrived. We document every milestone, every word they've spoken, every sign of improvement. And we put Maya on the stand to tell her story. They'll tear her apart, Nathan said quietly. My mother's lawyers will bring up every detail of her life. The fact that she never finished college, that she lost custody of her niece, that she's black? Maya's voice was flat. You can say it, Nathan. They'll make it about race without ever saying the word. They'll talk about cultural differences and community standards and traditional family values. And everyone in that courtroom will understand exactly what they mean. Sandra's expression was sympathetic. She's not wrong. Cases like this, they're harder when there's a racial component. Judges won't admit bias, but it exists. It absolutely exists. Nathan stopped pacing. Then we find a different judge. We get the case reassigned. That's what I was going to suggest. Judge Mitchell signed the emergency order, but the full custody hearing can be heard by someone else if we can demonstrate a conflict of interest. Sandra pulled another document from her briefcase. It turns out Judge Mitchell went to Yale with your mother's brother. They're in the same golf club. That's not a smoking gun, but it's enough to file a recusal motion. Do it. Whatever it takes. There's one more thing. Sandra hesitated. The most effective way to fight this is to present a united front. A stable, loving home with 2 committed parents. We are committed. We're together. You're not married. Sandra's voice was gentle but direct. In a custody dispute, that matters, especially when the opposing side is arguing that Maya is just a temporary employee who's overstepped her bounds. Nathan looked at Maya. Maya looked back at him. Are you suggesting we get married? Nathan asked slowly. I'm suggesting it would strengthen your case considerably, but only if it's real. Only if it's something you both want. Courts can smell a sham marriage from a mile away. The room fell silent. Nathan walked to where Maya sat and knelt in front of her, taking her hands. Maya, don't. Her voice was raw. Don't propose to me because a lawyer told you to. Don't make this about strategy. I'm not. Nathan's eyes were fixed on hers. I've been wanting to ask you for weeks. I kept waiting for the right moment, the perfect moment. But there is no perfect moment. There's just now. Nathan. I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to raise Leo and Sophie together as a real family with both our names on the door and both our hearts in that house. And I want to marry you not because it helps our case, but because I can't imagine my future without you in it. Maya's eyes filled with tears. You don't know what you're asking. You don't know what your life will look like with me in it. The stares, the whispers, the people who'll treat your children differently because their stepmother is black. Then we'll teach them how to stand tall. We'll teach them that love matters more than what other people think. We'll teach them to be brave. Nathan squeezed her hands. I know exactly what I'm asking, Maya, and I'm asking anyway. Will you marry me? Maya looked at this man, this broken, beautiful man who had stumbled into her life, carrying the weight of 3 years of grief. This man whose children had become her children, whose fight had become her fight, whose heart had somehow become entangled with hers. She thought about Kayla, about Denise, about all the people she'd lost, and all the ways love had failed her. And then she thought about Leo's voice saying "Mama" for the first time. Sophie climbing into Nathan's lap. 4 people around a breakfast table laughing, belonging, becoming a family. Yes, she whispered. Nathan's face broke into a smile so bright it almost hurt to look at. Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll fight for our family. Yes, I'll... She didn't get to finish the sentence. Nathan was already kissing her, pulling her close, holding her like he would never let go. Sandra Price watched them with something that might have been a smile. I'll file the recusal motion tomorrow, she said quietly. And I'll start preparing for the hearing. We're going to get those children back. But even as she said it, Maya felt the weight of everything stacked against them. Victoria's money, Victoria's connections, Victoria's absolute certainty that she was right and everyone else was wrong. This wasn't over, not even close. But for the first time since the police had carried Leo and Sophie out the front door, Maya felt something other than despair. She felt hope. The emergency hearing was scheduled for Friday, 4 days away. 4 days without the children. 4 days of silence in a house that should have been full of laughter. Maya walked through the empty playroom every morning, touching Leo's blocks, straightening Sophie's drawings on the wall. The rabbit that Sophie carried everywhere sat abandoned on the couch where she'd left it when the police came. Maya picked it up and held it against her chest. We're coming for you, she whispered to no one. Hold on. We're coming. Nathan spent those 4 days building their case. Medical records showing the twins' progress. Video footage from the baby monitor showing them playing, talking, laughing. Testimony from their pediatrician about the dramatic improvement in their development. And then there was Maya's testimony. Sandra spent hours preparing her walking, her through every possible question, every attack the opposing counsel might launch. They're going to ask about your niece, Sandra said on Thursday afternoon. About why you lost custody. I didn't lose custody. I never had custody. The state took Kayla before I could apply. Why? Maya's jaw tightened. Because I was 22 years old. Because I was working 3 jobs and living in a studio apartment. Because I couldn't prove I had the resources to care for a traumatized 4-year-old. And now? Now I'm different. I've spent 7 years getting my life together. I have savings. I have experience with children. I have... Maya's voice caught. I have a family that needs me. Good. Say exactly that on the stand. Sandra made a note. What about your relationship with Nathan? When did it become romantic? Officially about 2 months ago, But honestly, it started building from the first week. He was broken, and I understood that brokenness. We recognized something in each other. The opposing counsel will suggest you targeted him, that you saw a wealthy widower and made yourself indispensable so you could secure your position. Maya felt anger rise in her chest. That's disgusting. I know, but that's what they'll imply. How do you respond? I respond with the truth. I didn't come to that house looking for a husband. I came looking for a job. What I found was 2 children who needed love and a man who had forgotten how to give it. I didn't make myself indispensable, I just showed up. Every day. And eventually showing up turned into something more. Sandra smiled. Good. Now let's talk about Victoria. What can you tell me about her relationship with the children? There is no relationship. She's visited maybe 5 times since their mother died. She doesn't know their favorite foods, or their bedtime routines, or what songs help them fall asleep. She's a stranger to them, Sandra. A stranger with money and lawyers, and a complete inability to see those children as anything other than possessions. Can you prove that? I can prove that Leo screamed when she tried to touch him. I can prove that Sophie doesn't even recognize her face. I can prove that the only time Victoria has shown interest in those children is when it served her own agenda. Sandra nodded slowly. Then that's exactly what we'll do. Friday arrived gray and cold. Maya dressed carefully, a simple navy dress that Sandra had approved professional, but not trying too hard. She spent 20 minutes on her hair, then gave up and wrapped it simply the way she always did. Nathan found her standing in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection like it belonged to a stranger. You ready? He asked. No. She turned to face him. But I'm going anyway. He took her hands. Whatever happens in there, we face it together. And whatever the judge decides today, it's not the end. We keep fighting until we get them back. What if we don't? What if your mother wins? She won't. But what if she does? Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then, if she does, we appeal. We file motions. We take it to the state Supreme Court if we have to. I will spend every dollar I have and every minute of the rest of my life fighting for our children. And I will never stop believing that we'll bring them home. Maya searched his face looking for doubt. She found only certainty. Okay, she said. Let's go get our kids. They arrived at the courthouse at 8:47 a.m. The hearing was scheduled for 9:00. Sandra met them on the steps, her expression cautiously optimistic. The recusal motion was granted, she said. Judge Mitchell is off the case. We're in front of Judge Patricia Wheeler now. She's tough, but fair. If we can show her what those children were like before Maya arrived and what they're like now, we have a real shot. And Victoria, already inside with her legal team. She's also brought character witnesses, members of her church, old friends of Elena's. Sandra paused. She's going to try to paint Maya as an outsider who swooped in and stole her daughter-in-law's place. Maya felt her stomach turn. What about the children? Will they be there? No, they're too young to testify directly. But there will be a guardian ad litem, a court-appointed advocate who interviewed them yesterday. Her report will be presented as evidence. Did she talk to Leo and Sophie? Did they? Maya's voice cracked. Did they ask about me? Sandra's expression softened. According to the guardian's preliminary notes, both children asked for their mama multiple times. She noted that they seemed distressed, confused, and consistently referred to you as their mother. Maya pressed her hand to her mouth, fighting back tears. Nathan put his arm around her. That's good, right? That helps us. It helps. But Victoria's team will argue that the children have been manipulated into that attachment. We need to prove that it's genuine and healthy. Sandra checked her watch. We should head in. The judge doesn't like to be kept waiting. They walked up the courthouse steps together, Nathan and Maya side by side, heading into the fight of their lives. The courtroom was smaller than Maya expected. No jury. This was a family court matter decided by a judge alone. Victoria sat at one table with her team of lawyers, her silver hair perfect, her posture rigid with self-righteousness. She didn't look at Nathan, didn't acknowledge Maya at all. Judge Wheeler entered at exactly 9:00, and everyone rose. "Be seated." The judge was in her 60s, gray-haired and sharp-eyed. She shuffled papers on her desk for a moment, then looked up. "This is a custody dispute regarding the minor children Leo and Sophie Garrett. Mrs. Victoria Garrett is petitioning for permanent custody, claiming the children are at risk in their current living situation. Mr. Nathan Garrett opposes the petition." Let's hear opening statements. Victoria's lawyer went first, a silver-tongued man in an expensive suit who painted a picture of concerned grandparents, professional caregivers, and a widowed father led astray by an opportunistic employee. "Miss Thompson has no professional training in child development," he said. "She inserted herself into a vulnerable family and systematically alienated the children from their extended relatives. She encouraged them to call her mama while their actual mother has been dead barely 3 years. This is not love, Your Honor. This is predation." Maya felt Nathan's hand tighten on hers. Then it was Sandra's turn. "Your Honor, you'll hear a lot about credentials and qualifications today. What you won't hear from the petitioner is the simple truth: those children were dying before Maya Thompson arrived. Not physically, but emotionally, psychologically, spiritually dying. They hadn't spoken in 3 years, hadn't connected with anyone. 14 professional caregivers had tried and failed to reach them." Sandra walked toward the judge's bench. Maya Thompson did what no expert could do. She didn't try to fix those children, she just loved them. And they loved her back. The progress they've made under her care is nothing short of miraculous. We'll present medical testimony, developmental assessments, and the words of the children themselves as documented by the court-appointed guardian. And when all the evidence is in, I think you'll agree, the best place for Leo and Sophie Garrett is with their father and the woman they call Mama. Judge Wheeler's expression remained neutral. "Very well. Let's hear the evidence." The hearing lasted 6 hours. Maya watched witness after witness take the stand. Dr. Marsh, Victoria's paid expert, who testified that children with autism spectrum disorder required professional intervention, not amateur caregiving. A former friend of Elena's who claimed Maya was disrespectful of the deceased mother's memory. A child psychologist retained by Sandra who reviewed the twins' medical records and called their improvement remarkable and unprecedented. And then it was Maya's turn. She walked to the witness stand on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. Sandra's questions were softballs, designed to let her tell her story, to show the judge who she really was. "Miss Thompson, can you describe what the children were like when you first arrived?" Maya took a breath. "They were ghosts. Beautiful, blonde, blue-eyed ghosts. Leo wouldn't look at anyone. Sophie rocked and hummed to herself constantly. Neither of them had spoken a word since their mother's death." "And what did you do to reach them?" "Nothing special. I just stayed. I sang hymns while I worked. I talked to them without expecting answers. I let them know that someone was there, that they weren't alone." "Did you encourage them to call you Mama?" "No. Sophie said it first about a month after I arrived. She was showing me a drawing, and she just said it, like it was the most natural thing in the world." "How did that make you feel?" Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Like I'd been given a gift I didn't deserve. Like maybe—" her voice broke. "Like maybe I was meant to find them. Like God had put me in that house for a reason." Sandra nodded. No further questions. Then Victoria's lawyer stood up. "Miss Thompson, let's talk about your niece Kayla." Maya felt her stomach drop. "Isn't it true that you lost custody of Kayla 7 years ago?" "I never had custody to lose. She was placed with a foster family before I could apply." "But you wanted custody, didn't you?" "Yes." "And you were denied." "I wasn't denied. The state made a decision before I could." "Isn't it true that CPS determined you were unfit to care for a traumatized child?" Maya's hands clenched in her lap. "That's not what the report said." "What did it say, Miss Thompson?" Maya was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady but raw. It said I was 22 years old, working 3 jobs, living in a studio apartment. It said I didn't have the resources to provide for a child with significant emotional needs. It said that Kayla deserved stability, and I couldn't offer that. She looked directly at Victoria's lawyer. It didn't say I was unfit. It said I was poor. There's a difference. The lawyer smiled thinly. And now here you are, living in a billionaire's mansion, engaged to the father of the children you claim to love. Quite a rise in circumstances, wouldn't you say? Objection, Sandra said sharply. Counsel is implying facts, not in evidence. Sustained, Judge Wheeler said. Move on. But Maya saw the damage in the judge's eyes, the seed of doubt that had been planted. The lawyer continued. Miss Thompson, do you believe you're a suitable mother for these children? I believe I love them. I believe they love me. And I believe that love matters more than credentials or circumstances. But love isn't enough in court, is it? Love doesn't pay for therapy. Love doesn't make up for lack of training. Love is the only thing that brought those children back. Maya's voice rang through the courtroom stronger than she'd expected. You can talk about credentials and qualifications and resources, but none of that mattered when Leo and Sophie were drowning. None of that reached them. I did. Not because I'm special, not because I have some secret skill, but because I was willing to sit in the darkness with them, to wait, to let them know that no matter how long it took, I wasn't going anywhere. She looked at Victoria, then at the judge. I don't have degrees or certifications. I have experience. I have patience. I have a heart that's big enough to love 2 children who lost everything and still found the courage to trust again. If that's not enough, then I don't know what is. The courtroom was silent. Judge Wheeler made a note on her pad. No further questions, Victoria's lawyer said quietly. Maya walked back to her seat trembling. Nathan took her hand and squeezed. You were incredible, he whispered. But Maya couldn't respond. She was watching the judge's face, trying to read what was written there, and finding nothing but uncertainty. The judge called a recess at 3:47 p.m. Maya sat in the hallway outside the courtroom, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Nathan paced back and forth in front of her, wearing a path in the marble floor. How long does this usually take? He asked Sandra. Depends on the judge. Wheeler is thorough. She'll want to review all the evidence before making a decision. Could be an hour, could be longer. And if she rules against us, then we appeal. Immediately. Maya listened without speaking. Her mind was somewhere else, in a playroom building block towers with Leo, in a kitchen braiding Sophie's hair while she chattered about princesses, in a house that was supposed to be full of laughter but was now empty and silent. I can't lose them, she said quietly. Nathan stopped pacing. He sat down beside her and took her hand. You won't. You keep saying that, but you don't know. I know that Judge saw something in you today. I know she heard those children calling for their mama. I know that no amount of money or lawyers can hide the truth forever. Nathan lifted her chin, made her look at him. We're going to get them back, Maya. I believe that with everything I am. Maya wanted to believe it too, but she'd been here before, on the edge of hope, about to fall into despair. 7 years ago, waiting to hear if she could keep Kayla. The answer had been no. History had a way of repeating itself. The courtroom door opened. A bailiff stepped out. Judge Wheeler is ready to deliver her ruling. Maya's heart stopped. Nathan helped her to her feet. They walked back into the courtroom together, hand in hand, facing whatever came next as one. Victoria was already seated, her posture rigid, her face betraying nothing. Her lawyers shuffled papers and whispered among themselves. Judge Wheeler entered and everyone rose. Be seated. The judge settled into her chair and put on her reading glasses. She studied the papers in front of her for what felt like an eternity. Then she looked up. I've reviewed all the evidence presented today, including testimony from experts on both sides, documentation of the children's medical and developmental progress, and the report from the guardian ad litem. Maya couldn't breathe. This case presents a complex situation. On one side, we have a grandmother with significant resources and a genuine concern, however misguided, for her grandchildren's welfare. On the other, we have a father who has clearly struggled in the years since his wife's death, and a woman with no formal credentials who has somehow achieved what professionals could not. Judge Wheeler removed her glasses. I'll be honest, when I first reviewed this case, I had concerns. Miss Thompson's lack of qualifications, the speed with which she became romantically involved with Mr. Garrett, the children's attachment to her, which could be seen as either a blessing or a manipulation. Maya felt Nathan's hand tighten on hers. But then I read the guardian ad litem's report. The judge picked up a document. Leo Garrett, 6 years old, nonverbal, since the age of 3, spoke his first words 2 months ago. His first word was more. His second word was please. His third word, the judge's voice caught slightly. His third word was mama. And he wasn't referring to his biological mother. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Sophie Garrett, also 6, showed similar progress. After 3 years of silence, she began speaking in full sentences. When the guardian asked who she wanted to live with, Sophie said, and I quote, "Daddy and Mama. My real mama is in heaven, but Mama Maya is here, and I need her to stay." A sob escaped Maya's throat. Nathan put his arm around her. Judge Wheeler set down the report. Mrs. Garrett, I understand your concerns. I understand that you believe you're acting in your grandchildren's best interest, but the evidence is overwhelming. Those children were lost before Miss Thompson arrived. They were drowning in grief, unreachable, fading away. And this woman with no degrees, no certifications, no qualifications, except a willing heart, she saved them. Victoria's face had gone pale. The emergency custody order is hereby vacated. Full custody of Leo and Sophie. Garrett is awarded to their father, Nathan Garrett, with Maya Thompson recognized as a primary caregiver and upon her marriage to Mr. Garrett as their legal stepmother. Maya couldn't process the words. They washed over her like a wave, pulling her under, lifting her up. Furthermore, Judge Wheeler continued, I'm ordering a review of the circumstances surrounding the original emergency petition. The evidence suggests that Mrs. Victoria Garrett may have engaged in improper conduct in obtaining that order, including potential witness tampering and judicial influence. The matter will be referred to the State Bar for investigation. Victoria shot to her feet. This is outrageous. I was trying to protect my grandchildren from Mrs. Garrett. The judge's voice was ice. Sit down. Victoria sat. You may believe you were protecting those children, but what you actually did was traumatize them further. You ripped them away from the only stable home they've known in 3 years. You separated them from a woman they love and trust. You used your money and your connections to manipulate the legal system. Judge Wheeler leaned forward. Those children screamed for their mother when your officers took them. And their mother wasn't you, Mrs. Garrett. It was the woman sitting next to your son. Victoria's composure cracked. For the first time, Maya saw something human beneath the ice pain, maybe. Or regret. I loved Elena, Victoria said quietly. She was like a daughter to me. And watching Nathan move on so quickly, watching those children call someone else Mama. I understand grief, Judge Wheeler said. I've seen it destroy families, twist people into versions of themselves they don't recognize. But grief doesn't give you the right to hurt children. And that's what you did, Mrs. Garrett. You hurt them. Victoria said nothing. Her hands trembled in her lap. The children will be returned to their father immediately. Judge Wheeler gathered her papers. Court is adjourned. The gavel fell. Maya collapsed against Nathan, sobbing. We did it, he breathed. We did it. Sandra was there, hugging them both, saying things about paperwork and timelines and logistics, but Maya couldn't hear any of it over the roaring in her ears. They were getting their children back. Leo and Sophie were coming home. The drive to retrieve the children took 37 minutes. Nathan and Maya sat in the back of Sandra's car, holding hands, not speaking. There were no words for what they were feeling, the terror of the past week, the relief of the verdict, the desperate need to hold their children again. Victoria had been keeping them at her Manhattan penthouse. Sandra had called ahead to inform the household that the court order had been vacated and the children were to be released immediately. When they pulled up to the building, Maya's legs barely carried her through the lobby. The elevator ride to the top floor lasted an eternity. And then the doors opened and Maya heard a sound that made her knees buckle. "Mama!" Sophie came flying down the hallway. Her blonde hair tangled her face, streaked with tears, her small body launching itself at Maya with desperate force. Maya caught her, dropped to her knees, held her so tight she could feel Sophie's heartbeat against her own chest. "I'm here, baby. I'm here. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't stop them. I knew you'd come." Sophie was crying and laughing at the same time. "I told Leo. I told him Mama would come." "Where's Leo?" Maya pulled back, searching Sophie's face. "Where's your brother?" Sophie pointed down the hallway. "He won't come out. He's scared." Maya looked at Nathan. He nodded. "Go. I'll stay with Sophie." Maya walked down the hallway toward the room Sophie had indicated. The door was closed. She knocked gently. "Leo. Baby, it's Mama. Can I come in?" Silence. Maya tried the handle. Unlocked. She pushed the door open slowly. Leo sat in the corner of the room, knees pulled to his chest, rocking back and forth. His eyes were squeezed shut, his hands over his ears, the same defensive posture he'd had when Maya first arrived at the Greenwich house. 3 years of progress undone in a week. Maya felt her heart crack. She crossed the room slowly, carefully, and lowered herself to the floor beside him. Not touching, not forcing, just present. "I'm here," she said softly. "I'm right here, baby. You don't have to look at me. You don't have to talk. I'm just going to sit with you." "Okay." Leo didn't respond, but his rocking slowed slightly. Maya began to sing, low and quiet, an old hymn her grandmother had taught her. "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me." Leo's hands came down from his ears. "I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see." His eyes opened. He looked at her, really looked, for the first time since she'd entered the room. "Mama, I'm here, baby. You came back. I will always come back, always. No matter what happens, no matter how far away you are, I will find you. I promise." Leo's face crumpled, and then he was in her arms, clinging to her, his small body shaking with sobs that seemed too big for such a little boy. "Don't leave again," he choked out. "Please don't leave again." "Never." Maya held him tight, her own tears falling into his hair. "Never, never, never. We're going home, Leo. All of us. Together. And we're never going to be apart again." She didn't know how long they sat there on the floor, Leo crying in her arms, Maya rocking him gently, singing hymns between her own sobs. At some point, Nathan appeared in the doorway, with Sophie in his arms. He looked at Maya. She looked at him, and without a word, he crossed the room and joined them. The four of them huddled together on the floor of Victoria Garrett's guest room, holding each other like the world might end if they let go. A family. Broken, bruised, battle-scarred, but whole. They got married 6 weeks later. It wasn't the wedding Maya had dreamed of as a little girl. No grand church, no hundreds of guests, no designer gown. Instead, it was a simple ceremony in the living room of the Greenwich house, the same room where Nathan had first heard his children laugh. Maya wore a white dress she'd found at a consignment shop. Nathan wore the gray suit he'd worn to their first meeting. Leo carried the rings on a small pillow, looking terrified he might drop them. Sophie scattered flower petals with such enthusiasm that they ended up in everyone's hair. Maya's grandmother flew in from Atlanta, crying from the moment she stepped off the plane until long after the ceremony ended. "I never thought I'd see this day," she said, holding Maya's face in her weathered hands. "My baby girl finding her family. God is good." "God is good," Maya agreed. Victoria didn't attend. She'd sent a letter, not an apology exactly, but something close. An acknowledgement that she'd been wrong. a request eventually to be part of her grandchildren's lives. Nathan had written back, "When you're ready to treat Maya with respect, you're welcome in our home, not before." The response had been silence, but it was a different kind of silence than before, not hostile, just waiting. Victoria was learning slowly that she couldn't control everything, that sometimes love grew in unexpected places, and the best thing you could do was get out of its way. The ceremony was short. Simple vows spoken through tears. "I choose you," Maya said, holding Nathan's hands. "I choose you, and Leo, and Sophie. Today, and every day. Forever." "I choose you," Nathan said. "The woman who saved my children. The woman who saved me. I choose you." Leo tugged on Maya's dress. "Is it over? Can we have cake now?" Everyone laughed. The minister, Maya's grandmother, Nathan Maya herself. "Yes, baby," Maya said, scooping him up. "We can have cake." The reception was just the 5 of them, 6 counting Maya's grandmother, eating cake in the kitchen, playing music on Nathan's phone, dancing in circles until they were dizzy. Sophie fell asleep in Nathan's arms around 8 o'clock. Leo lasted until 9 before he started yawning so hard his jaw cracked. "Bedtime," Maya said, reaching for him. "But I'm not tired," Leo protested, even as his eyes drooped. "Of course not. You're just resting your eyes." She carried him upstairs, Nathan following with Sophie. They tucked the children into their beds. Leo in his room, Sophie in hers. Both of them surrounded by toys and books, and the evidence of a life that was finally truly theirs. "I love you, Mama," Leo murmured as Maya pulled the blanket up to his chin. "I love you too, baby. More than all the stars in the sky." "How many is that?" "More than you can count." Leo smiled sleepily. "That's a lot." "It is. Now close your eyes. I'll be right here when you wake up." He was asleep before she finished the sentence. Maya stood in the doorway watching him breathe, feeling Nathan's arms wrap around her from behind. "We did it," Nathan said quietly. "We did. How does it feel, being Mrs. Garrett?" Maya turned in his arms, looking up at the man who had become her husband, her partner, her home. "It feels like something I never thought I'd have," she said. "A family, a real family. Not the one I was born into, not the one I lost, but the one that found me." Nathan kissed her forehead. "You found us too. Don't forget that." Maya thought about the day she'd arrived at this house, scared broke, carrying nothing but a suitcase and 7 years of grief. She'd come looking for a paycheck. She'd found something she didn't even know she was looking for. Redemption. "I should check on Sophie," she said. "I'll come with you." They walked down the hall together, hand in hand, and looked in on their daughter. Sophie was curled around her stuffed rabbit, the one she'd tried to give Maya on her first day in this house. Her face was peaceful. "She asked me something yesterday," Nathan said quietly. "What?" "She asked if I thought her mother, her birth mother, could see us from heaven. If Elena knew that we were happy." Maya felt her throat tighten. "What did you tell her?" "I told her that I think Elena is smiling. That she would have loved you, Maya. That she would have been grateful every single day that someone was here to love her children the way you do." Tears spilled down Maya's cheeks. "I never wanted to replace her," Maya whispered. "I never wanted Sophie and Leo to forget. They won't forget. But they also won't spend their lives grieving, and that's because of you." Nathan turned her to face him. "You gave them permission to be happy again. You gave me permission. You took this broken, shattered family, and you put it back together with your bare hands." "I just loved them." "That's all anyone can do. That's all that matters." They stood there in the hallway between their children's rooms, in the house that had once been a tomb and was now a home. Below, Maya's grandmother was cleaning up the kitchen, singing hymns the same way she'd done Maya's whole life. The same hymns Maya had sung to Leo and Sophie, the ones that had somehow reached through 3 years of silence and brought 2 lost children back to life. God's timing is never early, never late, always perfect. Maya hadn't believed that, not for a long time. After Denise died, after she lost Kayla, after years of cleaning other people's homes, and sending every penny to Atlanta, she'd stopped believing that God had a plan for her at all. But standing here now in this house full of love and second chances and sleeping children, she understood something she hadn't before. The fire that took Denise. The foster family that took Kayla. The 7 years of loneliness and grief and barely getting by. All of it had led here, to this moment, this family, this life. Not because suffering was good, or because loss was some kind of test, but because sometimes the road to where you belong has to pass through the places where you don't. Sometimes you have to be broken before you can be whole. "What are you thinking about?" Nathan asked. Maya smiled. "I'm thinking that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Nathan pulled her close. "So am I." They went to bed that night in the room they now shared, the room that had once belonged to Nathan, alone, filled with grief and empty bottles and the weight of a life he didn't want to live anymore. Now it was theirs. Photos of the children on the nightstand, Maya's robe on the back of the door, evidence of a life built together day by day. "Tomorrow's Sunday," Nathan said as they lay in the darkness. "I was thinking maybe we could make pancakes, like I used to before." Maya turned to look at him. "The ones you always burn." "The ones I always burn." Nathan smiled. "But Sophie and Leo never complained. They ate them anyway." "Because they love you. Because they love me." He was quiet for a moment. "Do you think they'll remember this when they're grown? The way we came together, everything we went through?" Maya thought about Leo, who had spoken his first word in 3 years because she'd been patient enough to wait. Sophie, who had drawn a picture of 4 people holding hands and called it her family. "They'll remember," she said. "Maybe not the details, but they'll remember that they were loved. That's what children carry with them, the feeling of being loved." "I want them to remember you, specifically. I want them to know what you did for them." "They will, because we'll tell them." Maya reached over and took his hand. "And we'll keep loving them, every day, until the memory is so deep they can't imagine their lives any other way." Nathan brought her hand to his lips and kissed it. "I love you, Maya Garrett." "I love you too, Nathan Garrett." The house settled around them, old boards, creaking wind whispering against the windows. The sounds of a home at peace. Maya closed her eyes and let sleep take her. She dreamed of her sister Denise, smiling at her from somewhere bright and warm. Dreamed of her niece Kayla, happy with her foster family growing up loved. Dreamed of Elena, the woman she'd never met but felt she knew watching over her children from heaven. And in the morning, she woke to the sound of laughter. Leo and Sophie had climbed into bed with them sometime during the night, Sophie curled against Maya's side. Leo sprawled across Nathan's chest. The sun was streaming through the windows, and somewhere downstairs, Maya's grandmother was already singing hymns. "Mama," Sophie murmured sleepily, "I'm hungry." "Daddy's making pancakes," Maya said, "the ones he always burns." Nathan groaned. "I'm not awake yet." "Papa." Leo bounced on his chest. "Pancakes. You promised." "I absolutely did not promise." "You did." Sophie sat up, fully awake now. "Last night you said Sunday pancakes." Nathan looked at Maya with exaggerated despair. "Help me." Maya laughed. "You're on your own, husband." The children dragged Nathan out of bed, shrieking with delight, pulling him toward the stairs. Maya watched them go, her heart so full it felt like it might burst. Then she got up, wrapped her robe around herself, and followed her family downstairs. In the kitchen, chaos reigned. Nathan was measuring flour, while Leo handed him ingredients in the wrong order. Sophie was setting the table with great solemnity, making sure every fork was perfectly aligned. Maya's grandmother stood at the stove, supervising with the kind of gentle authority that came from decades of raising children and grandchildren. "Good morning, baby," her grandmother said, pulling Maya into a hug. "Sleep well. Better than I have in years." "That's how it should be." Her grandmother held her at arm's length, studying her face. "You look happy, really happy." "I am." "Your mama would be proud. Denise, too. They're watching over you, you know. Both of them." Maya's eyes welled with tears. "I know." "Mama," Sophie called from the table. "Come sit next to me." Maya wiped her eyes and crossed the kitchen to join her daughter. Leo had abandoned his post at the counter and was now trying to climb onto Nathan's back. "Leo, I can't make pancakes with you hanging on me, but I want to see." "You can see from the floor." "I can't see from the floor. I'm too short." Nathan looked at Maya helplessly. She just smiled. "Need help?" she asked. "Please." She took Leo from Nathan's back and settled him on the counter beside the bowl. "There. Now you can see, and Papa can work." Leo peered into the bowl. "That doesn't look like pancakes." "It's batter. It becomes pancakes when you cook it." "Magic." Maya smiled. "Something like that." Nathan poured the first pancake onto the griddle. Within 30 seconds, the edges were turning black. "Papa, you're burning it," Sophie said from the table. "I know, sweetheart." "Why do you always burn them?" "It's a gift." Maya's grandmother shook her head, but said nothing. Maya caught her eye and they shared a smile. The kind of smile that passed between women who understood that some things didn't need to be fixed. Some things were perfect exactly as they were. Breakfast was loud and messy and wonderful. The pancakes were indeed burned. Some of them nearly charcoal, but the children ate them anyway, drowning them in syrup and laughing at Nathan's exaggerated offense when they criticized his cooking. "I worked very hard on these," he said. "They're crunchy," Leo said. "Pancakes aren't supposed to be crunchy," Sophie added. "These are special crunchy pancakes. Family recipe." "From who?" Maya asked. Nathan grinned. "Me. I invented them." Maya laughed, and the sound filled the kitchen like music. After breakfast, they went outside. The autumn air was crisp, but not cold, and the leaves had started to turn red and gold and orange, carpeting the lawn. Leo ran ahead, chasing something only he could see. Sophie held Maya's hand, chattering about a dream she'd had, involving a talking rabbit and a castle made of clouds. Nathan walked beside Maya's grandmother, answering her questions about the house, the business, his plans for the future. "You'll take care of my granddaughter," her grandmother said. It wasn't a question. "With everything I have, for the rest of my life." "And those children, they're hers now, ours. Nothing will ever change that." Her grandmother nodded slowly. "Good. That's what I needed to hear." Maya watched them from across the yard, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had spent so many years believing that she didn't deserve this, a family, a home, love. She had convinced herself that happiness was for other people, that her role in life was to serve and support and step back. But she was wrong. She deserved this, every bit of it. "Mama, look." Sophie was pointing at a butterfly that had landed on a nearby flower. "I see it, baby. It's so pretty. Can we catch it?" "No, sweetheart. Some beautiful things you just have to let be." Sophie considered this for a moment. Then, "Like you and Papa." Maya blinked. "What do you mean?" "You're beautiful, and we can't catch you, but you stay anyway." Maya's throat tightened. She knelt down to Sophie's level. "I stay because I love you, because this is where I belong. Forever. Forever." Sophie threw her arms around Maya's neck. Maya held her tight, breathing in the smell of her hair, feeling the small, fierce heartbeat against her chest. "I love you, Mama," Sophie whispered. "I love you too, baby girl, more than all the stars in the sky." Sophie pulled back, grinning. "That's what you say to Leo." "Because it's true for both of you. There's enough love for everyone." Nathan appeared beside them, Leo riding on his shoulders. What's happening over here? Mama says she loves us more than all the stars, Sophie reported. Well, that's a lot of love. It is, Maya agreed. But you're worth it. Nathan reached out and pulled her close. The four of them stood there together, Leo on Nathan's shoulders. Sophie pressed between her parents, Maya leaning against her husband's side. A family. Complete. Whole. Healing doesn't always look the way you expect it to. Sometimes it comes wrapped in ordinary moments, in burned pancakes and bedtime stories and songs sung softly in the dark. Sometimes it arrives in the form of small hands reaching for yours, small voices calling you by a name you never thought you'd earn. And sometimes the family you need isn't the one you were born into. Sometimes it's the one that finds you in your darkest hour and refuses to let go. The one that sees you broken and loves you anyway. The one that says, "You're home now," and means it with every heartbeat. Maya Thompson had lost her sister, lost her niece, lost years of her life to grief and loneliness, and the heavy weight of believing she would never be enough. But she had found something too. She had found Nathan, a man broken by loss, who had learned to love again. She had found Leo and Sophie, two children, who had been drowning in darkness until she showed them the light. She had found a home, a purpose, a reason to wake up every morning with hope instead of fear. She had found her family, and as she stood in that yard surrounded by the people she loved, watching the autumn leaves fall around them like blessings from heaven, Maya understood something she had been too afraid to believe for most of her life. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. She was exactly who she was supposed to be. And the love she had found, the love she had built one day at a time, one small miracle at a time, was real and true and forever. God's timing is never early, never late, always perfect. Even when it feels like forever. Even when the road is long and dark and full of pain. Even then, grace is waiting. Even then, love wins. Maya took a deep breath, feeling the cool autumn air fill her lungs. "What are you thinking about?" Nathan asked. She smiled up at him, this man who had become her husband, her partner, her home. "I'm thinking about how grateful I am," she said, "for all of it, even the hard parts. Because they led me here." Nathan kissed her forehead. "They led us both here." "Mama, Papa, come on." Leo was pulling at Nathan's hand, trying to drag him toward the swing set. "Push me. I want to swing too." Sophie was already running ahead. Maya and Nathan followed, their hands intertwined. And somewhere above them, hidden beyond the autumn clouds, Maya could feel them watching her mother, her sister Elena, smiling, at peace, proud of the family that had risen from the ashes of so much loss. This is the end of the story, but not the end of theirs. Because stories like this don't really end. They just keep growing one day at a time, one act of love at a time, until the love itself becomes the story passed down from parent to child, from generation to generation, forever and always. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love never fails. And neither did they.